It's time for the Traci Shoblom Show with the creative professor, Traci Shoblom. Well, hello. Welcome back. It's Traci Shoblom, the creative professor. What? The creative professor. I have not been day drinking other than water and coffee. So hopefully this week, no one will walk in the room, no one will bark, and there will be no distractions. I could always edit them out, I suppose. So welcome back to the next episode of the Traci Shoblom Show. So last week, I left you with a bit of a mystery. I mentioned that I was in the middle of a negotiation that I would follow up with you guys about it this week. So that is what I'm doing. So what it was is my late husband died in June of 2024. You would think I would know exactly how long it's been, but time tends to slip away. So he was a car guy and he owned a ton of cars. And the last few cars that he owned, obviously when he died, we all inherited them. So the way he bought the car was on Halloween of 2017. He was trying to buy a Land Rover. They called and they're like, all right, the one you're trying to buy is in, come to the dealer. We went to the dealer. They were like, yeah, we don't know why they told you that it's here because it's not. We'll go call around and find out where your car is that you're going to buy. So while we were waiting, we were like, oh, what's that? And so we started test driving cars and we fell in love with the Jaguar F-Pace that he ended up buying. Like he leased it and then ended up buying it right there. Like he wasn't even planning on buying that car. So anyway, he owned the car leased and then owned the car for the entire time until he died. And there was a lot of kind of really emotional connection to the car because it was the first of his cars that we had bought together since we'd been, in a relationship and later married. And it was the car that we took on road trips and he went to go meet my dad. And when he got cancer, we drove it to radiation and chemotherapy. And it's the car that this is important, by the way, for the story. The car that I went to go and pick up his ashes from and drive to his funeral with it. It was a lot. Okay. So when he died, I drove the car for a few months before I bought Truck Norris. But I knew that Jaguars in particular are not famous for longevity or high mileage. So I decided to stop buying the car so that I could maximize the value when I decided to get rid of it. So, because I didn't want to trade it in. So anyway, I stopped driving the car and it sat in the driveway for like 18 months, which is very unlike me. I'm a very practical person. I take care of things, but I, for whatever reason, just couldn't do it. I couldn't sell the car. So fast forward to last week. Well, it started week before last, but last week. I'm like, all right, it's time. Like the car's just sitting in the driveway depreciating. I'm not going to be able to drive it, so I'm going to just sell it. And it was really hard. It was a very hard decision because it's the last remaining physical object connection to my late husband. So it was, obviously the battery was dead. So we jump-started, I get AAA to come out, jump-start it. I drive it over to a local German European auto dealer. And he says to me, first of all, I ended up having to spend $800 on a battery for this car. And he says to me, I said, okay, what would be your best advice going about selling this thing? And he goes, these are going to be really hard to sell. Just going to tell you right now. So he suggested that I get an offer for CarMax and Carfax and Kelley Blue Book and all that stuff. And I was like, gosh, that was not what I expected a luxury SUV with its in perfect condition with low mileage to have to do. So anyway, I did. I put in one of those electronic offers. I got the offer back. And instantly, your phone's gotten blown up by auto dealers. So there were 3 in particular that were near me, none of which were European car specialists. It was, American cars, Japanese cars. I don't even think there was a Honda dealer. I think it was not. They were Japanese. So, but anywho, so I pick one and I take it over there to the dealer. And the customer, so I'm not going to name names because I was deeply disappointed in this experience with this particular dealership. And yet I don't want to name the name of the dealership because just because I had a bad experience with one or two people does not mean that the whole company is not reputable. So I'm not gonna go there. But I will say that they kept me waiting for well over an hour with no contact communication, no idea or expectation about how long it was going to take. The messaging I'd gotten from the Kelley Blue Book people was, like a 15-minute thing. So that was what I had been, sort of my expectation had been set. So they take it away, they examine the car. Finally, I come out, I'm like, hello, it's been like an hour and a half. And they're like, oh yeah, we found some things wrong with the car. And I was like, okay, what? And then they started to list all the things that were wrong with the car. And a couple of the things that they said were wrong with the car, I knew for a fact were not wrong with the car. One of which was a coolant leak, and I had just put coolant in it that morning, so they identified coolant and thought, oh, it's a leak. Again, back to making assumptions. It's a logical assumption. I don't look like the kind of person who's going to be adding coolant to, a Jaguar, but I did. But some of the things that they said were wrong with the car, I know for a fact were replaced right before I stopped driving it. So it was not true. And then they couldn't get it into drive. And I'm like, you do not know what you're talking about with this car. You don't. So the offer that they gave me was very, very low. Well, first of all, they were working on an unbelievably low offer anyway. And then it was even lower. So I was like, no, that's going to be a no. So I left, and I took a few days off because I was just devastated by the whole experience. And then I was debating on whether or not to take it back over to the European mechanic and be like, okay, tell me what's wrong with the car. But then I remembered that all the service of the vehicle had been at the Land Rover Jaguar dealership in Cerritos that we went to buy the car. So I was like, well, they'll know what they did. So they're not going to come and say it needs this or that, because they'll know it doesn't, because they'll know that they have all the records on it and they'll know they did it. So that's what I did. So I drove down there. And the experience from the beginning was just completely different. I was treated with respect. They kept me updated on how, first of all, they set an expectation of how long it was going to take. Then he kept me updated. There was a little window where I could watch them inspecting the car and doing the things. So at the end, about an hour and a half later, he comes out and he says, all right, come on to my office. And I am not an easily trusting individual, especially not when it comes to car dealerships. But there was something about this guy that I just trusted. I just felt it. You just feel it sometimes with people. And his eyes were very compassionate because he understood that it was hard for me to understand or to accept, not understand, hard for me to accept that this car meant so very much to me emotionally and theoretically should have been worth a lot more than it was, isn't. That there was one thing wrong with the car that was genuinely wrong with the car, and I kind of suspected that it was, and it was a fairly expensive repair, and as indicated by the battery cost, everything on a Jaguar is an expensive repair. So, needless to say, the value of the vehicle depreciated 90% in the 6 years that my husband owned his car. It was devastating to know that something that was so important to us was worth a pittance of what we think it should have been worth. But I trusted him. I trusted his authenticity because we'd been talking for quite some time. Sammy, stop it. So I took it. I took the deal. And it was a terribly small amount of money. And I signed over the title and all that other stuff and walked away from the dealership. Ended up at the P.F. Chang's where we'd gone to celebrate buying it. And I was wrecked, okay? I was absolutely devastated by this experience. But it's been about a week, it's been like 5 days since this happened. And I've been able to calm down enough and sort of come to a place of expectance. But here's the thing the reason I want to come on here. Yes, it's about assumptions and about you can't assume that anything is worth anything until nothing is worth anything until you sell it. If you're like, oh, remember Beanie Babies and Cabbage Patch dolls? And people were collecting them going, oh, it's going to be worth all this money. It's not, unless someone's willing to buy it. So it's about assumptions. Yeah. And what's crazy, guys, is that I'm not that person. I'm not the person who lets emotions dictate my logic, but in this case I did. I'm the car girl. I'm the one who can get an absolutely insane value for a car. Like my kids come to me for advice on, but this was just not that because I was emotionally connected to it. So the thing I became aware of, and I mean, but like I experienced it, is that first of all, people like to do relationships. People like to do business with the people that they have a relationship with. And even though I didn't have a relationship with this individual at the dealer, I did have a relationship with the dealership. And my husband had a relationship with the dealership. So there was that. And it was a matter of, there was just all these sort of nonverbal things that made me feel like I could trust the authenticity of what he was saying. And that, yeah, I could have got a better deal if I'd gone here or gone there. But at some point, it becomes less about getting the best deal and more about knowing that the time is right to take the action, that you have to feel emotionally safe enough to say yes. So if you're in sales, or even like I tell my students, everything is sales, right? But if you're in direct, like actual sales, or if you're at work and you're trying to convince somebody of something, or in your personal life, sometimes people aren't going to say yes until they feel emotionally ready to do it. And it's nothing wrong with your offer, and it doesn't mean you're being lied to, and it doesn't mean any of that. It just means that the people need to be ready to take the action, because sometimes, like I just said, it's not always about the best deal or the most money or the whatever. Sometimes there's a lot going on underneath that you don't even know. There's no reason why I should have been so overly attached to a car, a piece of metal with 4 tires. And yet, I was. So the takeaway is trust your gut. Okay, I had totally different experiences with these 2 dealers. One, I was like annoyed because I could tell I was being manipulated. One, I trusted. And frankly, I ended up probably getting a little lower with the guy that I trusted than the original offer from the place that I walked out of, because I didn't want to be lied to. Authenticity and trust matter in business. They matter in life. Being a person of your word absolutely matters. I am recording a new ending to this because chaos broke out in the house. And the son just went and took a shower and barking and scratching and all kinds of stuff. So the essence of what I was saying is that it's important to be an authentic person yourself. It's important to understand when you're in sales, when you're in persuasion and negotiation, that your buyer, the other person, is going to trust you more if you understand that it's about a relationship and not just about trying to get the best deal. One thing that I didn't mention was the idea, everyone kept saying, well, if you sold it privately. And I was like, all right, yeah, I could go and sell it on eBay or something. But if I know that the car is only worth 4 figures, and I'm going to go and try to take advantage of some unsuspecting individual and get them to pay 5 figures for a car, that's not right. I'm not going to compromise my integrity because, so just for a couple thousand, I don't want to compromise my integrity for any money at all. But the point is, especially not that's not the right thing to do. If I know and believe the car is worth XYZ, then it's not about tricking someone who knows less than me to give me more money for that. That's just not who I am as a person. So this entire car dealership selling the car experience has been very profoundly insightful because, as I was saying, sometimes it's not about the best deal. Sometimes it's about doing what you need to do for yourself emotionally, and then understanding that that the gift is not the dollars, the gift is the lesson. Okay. So, thank you. I'm trying to come up with a tagline to say goodbye. Like, go out there and I don't know. I'll come up with something. If you have any suggestions, email me. Traci@thecreativeprofessor.com. Be like, tagline. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week. You've You've been listening to the Traci Shoblom Show with the creative professor Traci Shoblom. Subscribe, like, and come back next week for more of the Traci Shoblom Show.